Donald Trump may have just admitted something about the Iran war that could haunt him, a moment of unfiltered honesty that raises the question, did Iran really pose an imminent threat to the U.S.?
Mr. President, did Israel force your hand to launch these strikes against Iran? Did Netanyahu pull the United States into this war?
No, I might have forced their hand.
It's an eyebrow-raising question. Did Israel really push the U.S. into striking Iran? Because the Trump administration has consistently framed the attack as a preemptive move to stop Iran's nuclear program and protect American interests. But that question didn't appear out of nowhere. Just a day earlier, Marco Rubio had made remarks that fueled speculation that Israel may have played a bigger role behind the scenes.
We knew that there was going to be an Israeli action. We knew that that would precipitate an attack against American forces. And we knew that if we didn't preemptively go after them before they launched those attacks, we would suffer higher casualties and perhaps even higher those killed. And then we would all be here answering questions about why we knew that and didn't act.
Listening to that explanation from Marco Rubio, you might reasonably get the impression that the United States was less the driver of events and more a very well-armed passenger. According to him, Washington knew Israel was about to strike, knew retaliation was coming, and knew American forces might get hit. So the U.S. struck first. Simple, right? Except that does make the reporter's question to Donald Trump sound a lot more reasonable than it initially seemed. If Israel's move set the chain reaction in motion, then naturally people will ask, who was really steering the car? Of course, Rubio might say he was misunderstood, or perhaps strategically paraphrased.
Does Congress have to weigh in? Is the president declaring war, and does Congress have to weigh in? And was there an imminent threat? Did you tell lawmakers that there was an imminent threat?
There absolutely was an imminent threat, and the imminent threat was that we knew that if Iran was attacked, and we believed they would be attacked, that they would immediately come after us. And we were not going to sit there and absorb a blow before we responded, because the Department of War assessed that if we did that, if we waited for them to hit us first after they were attacked, and by someone else, Israel attacked them, they hit us first, and we waited for them to hit us, we would suffer more casualties and more deaths. We went proactively in a defensive way to prevent them from inflicting higher damage. Had we not done so, there would have been hearings on Capitol Hill about how we knew that this was going to happen, and we didn't act preemptively to prevent more casualties and more loss of life.
If Marco Rubio had simply misspoken earlier, this follow-up question gave him the perfect opportunity to clean it up. But instead, his explanation somehow managed to make things even clearer and more confusing at the same time. He doubled down on the fact that if Israel attacked Iran, retaliation against U.S. forces was expected, and Washington chose to strike first to avoid heavier casualties. That framing makes it sound very much like America's move was tied to Israel's decision. Yet at the same time, Donald Trump insists the opposite, that the United States wasn't reacting to Israel at all, but that Israel moved after Washington decided to act. So which version is true? Well, let's give Trump the benefit of the doubt. After all, he is the president. But if Israel wasn't the trigger, then what exactly convinced Trump that an imminent threat from Iran demanded immediate action?
You see, we were having negotiations with these lunatics, and it was my opinion that they were going to attack first. They were going to attack. If we didn't do it, they were going to attack first. I felt strongly about that. And we have great negotiators, great people that do this very successfully and have done it all their lives very successful. And based on the way the negotiation was going, I think they were going to attack first. And I didn't want that to happen. So if anything, I might have forced Israel's hand. And the leader of the pack is gone. And as you know, 49 people were taken out in the first hit. And I guess there was another hit today on the new leadership. And it looks like that was pretty substantial also.
Well, that clears things up. Sort of. According to Donald Trump, the decision was based largely on his belief that Iran was going to strike first. Not confirmed intelligence, not a smoking gun. A belief. And just in case that belief was wrong, the solution was simple: attack first anyway. In this version of events, the U.S. didn't follow Israel into the conflict. Apparently, Israel followed the U.S. Quite the twist. The result? Iran's leadership decimated, and Washington declaring success. Problem solved, right? Except wars rarely end that neatly. So now the real question begins. What happens next? And what exactly is the plan from here?
Mr. President, what's the worst-case scenario that you have planned for in Iran?
Well, I don't know if there's a worst case. We have them very much beaten militarily from the military standpoint. They're still lobbing some missiles. At some point, they won't even be able to do that because we're hitting all of their carriers. We're hitting all of their missile stock. You know, they built up all these missiles over the last few years. They had a lot of them. They've shot a lot of them, and we're knocking out a lot. I guess the worst case would be we do this, and then somebody takes over who's as bad as the previous person, right? That could happen. We don't want that to happen. That would probably be the worst. You go through this, and then in 5 years you realize you put somebody in who was no better. So we'd like to see somebody in there that's going to bring it back for the people. And we'll see what happens with the people. You know, they have their chance. And we've said don't do it yet. If you're going to go out and protest, don't do it yet. It's very dangerous out there. A lot of bombs are being dropped. But I would say that would be about the worst.
Well, if the worst-case scenario is replacing one bad ruler with another bad ruler, you'd assume the Donald Trump administration had already lined up the perfect successor for Iran. You know, carefully vetted, thoroughly briefed, maybe waiting just off stage. After all, when Washington talks about freedom and opportunity for the Iranian people, it usually sounds like there's a grand plan behind it. Trump even boldly proclaimed this to the Iranian people in his first address on the very day the U.S. launched its attack.
Finally, to the great, proud people of Iran, I say tonight that the hour of your freedom is at hand. Stay sheltered. Don't leave your home. It's very dangerous outside. Bombs will be dropping everywhere. When we are finished, take over your government. It will be yours to take. This will be probably your only chance for generations. For many years, you have asked for America's help, but you never got it. No president was willing to do what I am willing to do tonight. Now you have a president who is giving you what you want. So let's see how you respond.
It certainly sounds like Donald Trump is giving the people of Iran their once-in-a-generation chance to run the country, right after removing its current leadership. But here's the small detail nobody seems to know. Who exactly is supposed to run the country next? Because regime change sounds impressive, right up until someone asks the awkward follow-up. So who's the new boss?
Do you have someone in mind right now? Because you said all the people you did have in mind have been taken out. What do you think?
Well, most of the people we had in mind are dead. So, you know, we had some in mind from that group that is dead. And now we have another group. They may be dead also, based on reports. So I guess you have a third wave coming in. Pretty soon we're not going to know anybody.
Oh, well, that's awkward. Most of the people they had in mind are dead. Some from the next group might be dead too, and soon they won't know anyone at all. One can only hope someone in Trump's administration had secretly labeled Option B somewhere. Because when your plan keeps getting wiped out, you really do need a backup plan.
Reza Pahlavi, is he an option at all in your mind?
I guess he is. Some people like him, and we haven't been thinking about too much about that. It would seem to me that somebody from within maybe would be more appropriate. I've said that. He looks like a very nice person, but it would seem to me that somebody that's there, that's currently popular, if there's such a person. But we have people like that. We have people that were more moderate.
Donald Trump seemed to shrug at the idea of Reza Pahlavi, the exiled son of Iran's last Shah, running the country, noting vaguely that he looks like a very nice person. Charming, but apparently not quite the right fit. According to Trump, the ideal leader should be someone popular inside Iran. But here's the minor hiccup. The U.S. military has already eliminated most of the candidates the administration fancied for this smooth transition. So now, Iran's options are slim to none. But hold on, there might still be one person left.
Among candidates for Iran's next supreme leader is one who really stands out, and that's Mojtaba Khamenei. He is one of the sons of the slain supreme leader Ayatollah Ali Khamenei, and he saw both his father and his wife killed in the initial Israeli airstrike on Saturday. Now, there's some concern because Analysts believe that Mojtaba Khamenei is actually much more hardline than his father, and he would take over Iran as it faces this war.
The late Supreme Leader's son, Mojtaba Khamenei, has suddenly emerged as the frontrunner to lead Iran. And here's the plot twist. He's reportedly even more uncompromising than his father. To make matters worse, U.S.-Israel airstrikes killed both his father and his wife. If he assumes power, this so-called regime change could look a lot like the worst-case scenario we were hoping to avoid, and there's little the Iranian people can do. But let's turn closer to home. How exactly is the U.S. planning to evacuate its citizens from this chaos?
Why wasn't there an evacuation plan, and will you send planes to get people out?
Well, because it happened all very quickly. We thought, and I thought maybe more so than most, I could ask Marco, but I thought we were going to have a situation where we were going to be attacked. They were getting ready to attack Israel. They were getting ready to attack others.
When wars happen quickly, that's usually the exact reason governments make plans beforehand. Emergency planning is, after all, not a last-minute hobby. And perhaps don't ask Marco Rubio for clarification. He already said the U.S. struck Iran because Israel was preparing to attack. Donald Trump, meanwhile, suggested otherwise. At this point, the policy seems to be attack first, align the talking points later. But just to be sure, let's check back with Marco Rubio.
Yesterday, you told us that Israel was going to strike Iran, and that's why we needed to get involved. Today, the president said that Iran was going to get.
Yeah, your statement is false. I told you this had to happen anyway. The president made a decision, and the decision he made was that Iran was not going to be allowed to hide behind its ballistic missile program, that Iran was not going to be allowed to hide behind its ability to conduct these attacks. That decision had been made. The president systematically made a decision to systematically destroy this terroristic capability that they had, and we carried that out. I was very clear in that answer. This was a question of timing.
That's an impressive explanation, except it sounds nothing like what he said the day before. I'm pretty sure he said this.
We knew that there was going to be an Israeli action. We knew that that would precipitate an attack against American forces. And we knew that if we didn't preemptively go after them before they launched those attacks, we would suffer higher casualties and perhaps even higher those killed.
So where exactly does Israel fit into this story if, as Donald Trump insists, Israel's strike didn't force America's hand?
There's a general question of why the president gave the green light, and then there's a question of why did it have to happen this weekend? Are you saying it had to happen this weekend because of that Israeli action?
No, this weekend presented a unique opportunity to take joint action against this threat. And we wanted this to have maximum success. We want this operation to be successful at achieving its objectives. I'll repeat the objectives. The president laid them out yesterday. Iran cannot have a nuclear weapon. It cannot have, and therefore it cannot have the things it was hiding behind to have a nuclear weapons program. And this weekend, acting at this time, gave us the highest probability of success in achieving those objectives. The president had already made a decision to act on the timing. The president acted on the timing that gave us the highest chance of success.
Right, so it was all about the timing. Suddenly, everything makes perfect sense. Until, of course, that slightly inconvenient Pentagon briefing leaks out. Apparently, officials told Congress there was no intelligence suggesting Iran planned to attack U.S. forces first. But don't worry, this isn't the first, nor would it be the last awkward moment.
The IC continues to assess that Iran is not building a nuclear weapon, and Supreme Leader Khamenei has not authorized the nuclear weapons program that he suspended in 2003.
In March 2025, Director of National Intelligence Tulsi Gabbard told the Senate in no uncertain terms that Iran wasn't building a nuclear weapon and hadn't authorized one since 2003. Surely there wasn't any imminent threat, right?
What intelligence do you have that Iran is building a nuclear weapon? Your intelligence community has said they have no evidence that they are at this point.
Well, then my intelligence community is wrong. Who in the intelligence community said that?
Your Director of National Intelligence, Tulsi Gabbard.
She's wrong.
According to Donald Trump, the threat was very real. So real, in fact, that he acted on the secret intel the DNI apparently missed.
A short time ago, the U.S. military carried out massive precision strikes on the 3 key nuclear facilities in the Iranian regime: Fordow, Natanz, and Esfahan. Everybody heard those names for years as they built this horribly destructive enterprise. Our objective was the destruction of Iran's nuclear enrichment capacity and a stop to the nuclear threat posed by the world's #1 state sponsor of terror. Tonight, I can report to the world that the strikes were a spectacular military success. Iran's key nuclear enrichment facilities have been completely and totally obliterated.
On June 22, 2025, U.S. forces launched Operation Midnight Hammer, bombing 3 Iranian nuclear sites in a strike the president called complete obliteration. So here's the curious part. If the key facilities were truly gone, was there really an imminent nuclear threat left to worry about? Naturally, White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt was ready with an answer.
No one from the administration has laid out the imminent threat that was supposed to be taken care of by this. And the rationales offered by, say, Secretary Rubio, the president's national security advisor, said that the threat was retaliation against American interests from Iran after Israeli strikes. The president says it was his own feeling that Iran was going to attack. Why is it that across the administration you can't say what the imminent threat against the United States was that required us to launch this?
President Trump does not make these decisions in a vacuum. This decision to launch this operation was based on a cumulative effect of various direct threats that Iran posed to the United States of America, and the president's feeling based on fact that Iran does pose an imminent and direct threat to the United States of America.
There it is, the war rationale. Trump's feelings based on facts. Except, so far, those facts remain invisible. Feelings, no matter how presidential, aren't exactly a robust national security strategy. The administration hasn't clearly explained what imminent threat justified bombing Iran, and none of the stated goals make much sense. Normally, these decisions are scrutinized for months, briefed to Congress, and communicated carefully to the public. Here, it's gut instinct first, clarity maybe later. I'm not saying Iran deserved or didn't deserve this war, but one thing's clear. We deserve a far more coherent explanation than feelings disguised as intelligence. The war with Iran hasn't just raised questions at home. It has also strained America's relationships abroad, including its long-standing alliance with the United Kingdom. What exactly caused this sudden tension between 2 of Washington's closest partners? And what are leaders on both sides saying about it now? Watch the next video to find out.